Welcome to a special bonus edition of the Patio Pondering Podcast. Today's episode is a little different from our normal schedule. During Ag Day at the 2026 Allen County Fair, I had the privilege of sitting down with David Kohli, Jon Cavanaugh, and Rob Winters. All three are well-known voices in Northeast Indiana and throughout the Midwest agricultural community. Collectively, these three gentlemen bring well over 150 years of experience serving agriculture. Rob Winters spent decades behind a microphone as one of the Midwest's most recognized agricultural broadcasters. Jon Cavanaugh devoted his career to grain merchandising and helping farmers develop marketing plans at one of the region's major grain terminals. David Kohli spent his career as a commodity broker, marketing advisor, and risk management consultant helping farmers and grain elevators navigate changing markets and manage risk. Together, they have witnessed farm booms and farm crises, changing government policies, shifting export markets, and the evolution of modern production agriculture. More importantly, they have spent decades helping farmers make sense of those changes and the opportunities and challenges they created. As someone who grew up listening to ag radio, it was both an honor and a privilege to sit down with them and hear their candid perspectives on where agriculture stands today. Our discussion focused on the current farm economy, comparisons between today's challenges and those faced during the 1980s farm crisis, and what producers should be watching as we move forward. Because this conversation was recorded live during Ag Day at the Allen County Fair, you may notice some differences in audio quality compared to a typical Patio Pondering episode. I believe the insights and perspectives shared by David, Jon, and Rob make it well worthwhile. Let's join the conversation.
I am at the Allen County Fairgrounds with a distinguished trio of experienced ag professionals. It's Ag Day at the Allen County Fair, and I have Rob Winters, Jon Cavanaugh, and David Kohli. They just gave a presentation giving an outlook on ag markets, talking about acreage, about weather, about China. But I want to ask them a couple questions that are different than that. It's 2026, and we're supposedly in another farm crisis. I'd like their opinions on how 2026 compares to 79 through 83. I'll start with you, Rob. You started broadcasting in the early 70s. Some would say the heyday of American agriculture. What is your assessment? Is 2026 really a crisis? Is it the same as the early 80s, or are we looking at something different?
I think that one of the biggest considerations is the players, because a lot of the players have changed, number one. And number two, the scope of what's going on has changed significantly. Populations have changed. Who the players were have changed. South America has changed significantly. It wasn't a player as much as they are today compared to what they were before. So I think from my position, that would be the main thing, is that the players have changed significantly. China was not what they are today. Russia was much bigger. We were much bigger producers of wheat. Corn and soybeans were not as significant then as they are today. So the players were different, and the scope of everything was different. The population of the United States was, 100 million, maybe more, less than it is today. So the scope of everything was just totally different.
So in your assessment, it's the same, but it's different.
Okay. Well, go with that. Yeah, that covers it. It really does.
Okay. Well, thank you, Rob. Jon, you spent your career merchandising grain, buying from farmers, selling to end users. What is your assessment and the differences between 2026 and the farm crisis?
Oh, I don't think, I don't quite buy we have a farm crisis this year, or the current situation. And part of that's because we just came out of one of the most productive, lucrative periods in agriculture that I've ever seen, when we had a 2 or 3 year period of prices that were well over $6 on corn, and we got as high as $8, and a lot of that money was plowed into new equipment, new things, reducing costs, making them better able to weather the storm. Also, we have fewer, larger farmers. Now, the biggest change that I've seen, of course, has been like everything else, is it's consolidated. It's into fewer hands, and it's into more efficient hands for the most part. We're more efficient than we were back in the early 80s and the late 70s. That was a time period that was very distressed, no question about it. I do not think what we're seeing today is nearly that bad.
I think there's a lot of people who would agree with you, John, that it's not as bad.
There's also a lot of politics involved. We know politics have always been terrible, but let's face it, there's a vested interest by certain politicians to want there to be a farm crisis. Not that they want it to be, but they want to be able to sit there and say, well, that party's doing things wrong, and therefore you can see it in the farm crisis. That's where it's most obvious. So I think there's a lot of politics going on right now that distort reality.
Could you say that we're not letting a crisis go to waste?
Not at all. We're not letting a good crisis go to waste.
And the other thing is, Mother Nature always gets the final word.
Oh, bingo. And we in Northeast Indiana understand Mother Nature more than a lot of places in the world. Now, David Kohli, you've spent your career helping with risk management. I was one of your customers for a while, and I'll tell you, some of those bull hedges you did made us some money. I learned about bully bands from you. I know you disagree with John quite a bit. What is your assessment on a difference between the early 80s and 2026?
Let's go back to the 1960s, because the government program was trying to bring out Quonset huts, which were still left over from World War II, and they were putting grain in there and storing it in the federal program. So they were hoping this would benefit the prices of it, but it really didn't, because that was still hanging over the market because it was all parked in these Quonset huts. Then in 73, the Russians bought from us. It was a secret deal. All of a sudden, that hammered us. Corn went way up, so did beans way up, and after that, we started to go back down because the Russian buying didn't last very long after that. And then we got into the late 70s. It was really, really slow. And then in the early 80s, we had the Russian embargo in 1980 that really smacked us again. And really, the 81, 82, and 83 really hurt us, because after that, and losing the Russian business, we really suffered, because that normally they had some weather problems in 83. We didn't benefit from that. But you know what happened in 88? That's when the big drought hit. Whammo! Grain prices went to the moon. Everything was going crazy. Then we had the river problems in the 90s from the flooding that occurred there. So that also made a big difference. So the difference to today is this. It's very interesting, because there's a lot of different players in the game. China's in the game now. Mexico's in the game. South America's in the game. Europe is. Australia is. India. It's amazing to see all these people in the game right now. And it's affecting our prices here, because anything happens around the world, like we got a peace with Iran. No, we don't have a peace, because they're back at it again. Cargo Island is supposed to be hit again, and the Straits of Hormuz are closed again. So this is giving us all sorts of jiggers, because I've seen crude oil over $1.04 recently. Now it got down to 72. Now it should be above 80. So it's going to be interesting to see how this all banks out.
I asked this guy who the person was who gave him his first job in commodity trading.
So, David Kohli, Jon Cavanaugh wants to know, who gave you your first job in commodity trading?
Well, I've got to talk about what happened back then, because my father, of course, was working for Weaver Brother Eggs in Versailles, Ohio, and he says, son, I've done well in the futures market. I'm going to take you to Chicago and introduce you to the guys at the egg pit. So I got to meet them, and I got to see what's making egg prices changing quite a bit. I really appreciated that. And I got very lucky, because I got to talk to some people. I made good friends with them. I got to do certain deals with the futures market that made me work hard to get. And I really appreciated that. I appreciated the experience.
Did you answer his question?
Of course I want to. But the big thing is, today, it's every influence bearing upon us. It's the dollar index. It was way down. Now it's over 100 again. So that's affecting us, because they don't want to buy so many exports from us.
Who gave you your first job?
Did you answer the question?
The first job came from my dad telling me to go see Jon Cavanaugh at Central States Grain, and I got a job with Central States. I was a grain merchant.
Hired him.
Wow. Is that a decision you regret today?
I rejoice in it. It is fantastic to know that John was one of the ones that really spoke up for me and got me to take the job.
So I have one last question for all of you collectively. In all the interviews and the podcasts and the shows you do, what is one question that you never get asked but you should get asked? We'll start with you, John.
One question that I never get asked but I should get asked? What is the best strategy on a year-to-year basis, no matter what the prices are, in marketing by grain?
Mr. Kohli?
I had a few ask me this, but I want to talk about what happened to me. This was the 1980s. I was doing a broadcast on WOWO about the grain markets, and I talked about the weather out west. Well, guess who was on? The weather guy was on right after me, and he cursed. He was upset. Why is he talking about weather? Because I said, you're only talking about weather in Fort Wayne, you dummy. I'm talking Iowa and Illinois, and I'm watching the weather out there. And my customers that listen to me, they want to hear what the weather's doing out there in Iowa. So I don't get the question asked very much, but that's why I gave so much effort today to El Nino and to La Nina and to the Gulf moisture and that polar vortex. So I'll answer those questions when they're asked, but normally I don't get questions on that anymore.
And Mr. Winters, turning the tables on you, going from interviewer to interviewee, what is the question that you never get that you should?
Yeah, I don't get interviewed, so shame on you. You have put me on the spot. No, actually, I was thinking along the same lines as John, and that is that, you know, we give a lot of advice based on the tea leaves that we're reading about what people should do marketing their grain. And it always amazes us how many people don't take that advice. And so the question I think that they should ask us is, what should I do to develop a solid strategy, and what should I be watching as I maybe tweak my strategy over the course of the year? It's like that it seems to me should be a no-brainer. I mean, you guys are really good at planting corn and growing corn, but sometimes not the best at actually marketing the corn. So I think that that's one thing that people should ask.
Well, I think it's interesting. Both Rob and John have said the word strategy, and that's a theme in one of my podcasts with Dr. Michael Langmeyer from Purdue that talked about strategy and strategic thinking in agriculture, and that we've gone beyond the basics and the mechanics. Now we need to be strategic in our decisions. What do you think there, Mr. Kohli?
Definitely, yes. I didn't use the word strategic because I was going beyond that and looking really, really deep in this. But what I've noticed is, and this came out in the 80s, 1/3 of the grain is sold in the lowest price of the year. So why do they wait so long? And why do they sell the lows? Remember what I said today? Bull markets are the top. Bear markets are the bottom when they talk bearish and when they talk bullish. That is what people are hearing, and they're hearing bearish news. Here they're finally saying, I've got to sell it here, and they do, and then the market goes up right away. And I think we have to look at things from a different perspective, and we have to look at, we got a marketing plan here instead of a crop planting program. Yes, we know that. Fertilizer program. Now we need a good marketing program, and that's the one thing I've stressed all along when I speak to groups.
Well, listeners, I think it's a great place to stop with Mr. Kohli criticizing Sell It to Low marketing plan that is on our farm. Thank you three for spending time with me and sharing some of your thoughts about ag and the markets and the difference between 2026 and the early 80s.